The following program is not a cult initiation type of deal. It is simply a gathering of like-minded individuals blocking out their immediate surroundings while engaging their new friends in contemplative thought. For a mere $5 per month, you will be recognized by the group for your significance in society. Outsiders are not shunned per se. However, we cannot ignore the fact that they are obviously less desirable persons than those who... Okay, fine. It's kinda a cult. What's with all the negative connotations around the word cult? Nobody judged you when you signed up for the cult of Netflix, now did they? Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the early edition of the following program. I'm your host, Joe Neerman, aka Good Logic. I'm going to get a few things out of the gate right away. First and foremost, I apologize that I was not able to stream last night. I was feeling ridiculously not good, and I don't know why. All day yesterday, I was dealing with a headache and like achiness and what I was sure was fever, and equally sure that my wife would say is definitely not fever, because there is like this, like when I put my hand to my own forehead, I could tell when I have fever. That test is never ever wrong. Some people, not mentioning names, have an opinion that my estimations are not always accurate in that regard. Not mentioning any names at all. But anyway, bottom line is, thank God, I actually found that I think I was really just dehydrated because I drank a lot of water and had some ibuprofen, and one of those made me feel a lot better. So here I am in the flesh. I also apologize that I had been invited, those of you who follow me on Locals, I had been invited to join that panel yesterday on Twitter Spaces to participate in post DeSantis announcement in the discussion there, and for one reason or another, that just never manifested. I don't know what happened. I'm not complaining. I'm not really even upset, other than the fact that I told people I was going to be there. So that just makes me look like people were like, "Why are you telling us you're going to be there when you're not?" I mean, I was there, but just never made it to the panel, which is. Maybe you could smell my cologne from there, from wherever you were, but that seems unlikely. Anyway, we need to talk about DeSantis and his announcement that he is going to be running to be the GOP nominee for president of the United States in 2024. There was one meme that's really popular on Twitter right now, which is pretty funny. It's pretty funny. I think supposedly Trump sent this out. You likely have seen it. It's been that popular. But I recognize that some of you are not on Twitter, which means that you probably have a much healthier mindset than the rest of us. But if you're not on Twitter, you probably missed this. So I'm going to share it with you now because I thought this was pretty funny. This is what Twitter Spaces looks like if you're not on Twitter. This image that you're about to see here. This was pretty funny. So you have a whole bunch of faces, and each of them, this is the panel, though they get labeled speaker. This is Elon Musk's panel yesterday.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Ron DeSantis Twitter space.
Hello? Is my microphone working correctly?
George, can you just wait while we...
Hello? Can you hear me?
I love We can all hear you, George. Can you just hold on for a second?
Hilfa, I don't think they can hear me.
I can hear you fine, George. Just speak to the
I don't think George knows how to use Twitter.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Can I please make my big announcement now? Everyone just...
Hello?
Just shut up, George.
Can somebody just mute George?
I love this.
Dick, could you try not to cough on the...
Okay, so how are we going to take out Trump, you guys?
guys from the FBI, this is not a private call. This is a public Twitter space. Everyone can
great.
listen in.
That was great.
Okay, so how are we going to take out Trump, you guys?
Guys from the FBI, this is not a private call. This is a public Twitter space. Everyone can listen in.
God damn it.
Anyway, guys, we invited everyone to this this Twitter space so Governor Ron DeSantis could.
Everyone just shut the hell up so I can make my announcement, okay?
You go, girl.
Wait, the devil is gay?
So what? Everyone in this call is gay. I happen to know every single one of you has a secret gay lover hidden in your closet.
Ich kann nicht zulassen, dass die Soldaten, die für Sie verbringen.
Guys, can we please just calm down?
So anyway, guys, I just wanted to announce that I'm...
Okay, I can hear the governor very well.
Shut up.
Would you please shut up already? I'm running for fucking president, okay?
Yeah, we kind of already knew about it.
Know, Governor.
Congratulations, Governor.
Well, that concludes our Twitter space for today. Thank you to all of our...
Hold your horses, Elon. The real president is going to say a few words. The devil, I'm going to kick your ass very soon. Hitler, you're already dead. Dick Cheney, sounds like you'll be joining Hitler very soon. Klaus Schwab and George Soros, I'm putting both your asses in jail. And Ron DeSanctimonious can kiss my big, beautiful 2024 presidential ass. Trump 2024, baby. Let's go.
Anyway, I thought the ending there was actually pretty weak, but yeah. And it's that I thought it was pretty funny. I thought it was pretty funny. I don't know what Andy Signor wants from me. He wants something from me. So I just thought I'd share that. And I also think it's a little microcosm as to like what people, how people are viewing these different candidates. I want to talk about that. So in case you missed it yesterday, Ron DeSantis came out with his announcement that he is running for president. And he did it through Twitter Spaces. And when he did it through Twitter Spaces, so Elon Musk was hosting it. And apparently it kept the Twitter Spaces was getting flooded with, they said, up to 100,000 new people joining the space per minute. And Twitter wasn't able to handle that rapid influx of new people joining space. And accordingly, it crashed. I think it crashed twice. And it took them like, it was supposed to start at 6 p.m. Eastern. It ended up not happening until like getting started till 6:20, 6:25, maybe even 6:30. It was, they spent a good while sorting it out. It was very embarrassing for everyone associated with producing this Twitter space. It was embarrassing for Ron. It was embarrassing for Elon. There's no question that this was embarrassing. They can try and paint it as we're so popular we broke the internet. At the end of the day, as I tweeted out, if Trump's famous trip down the escalator stopped a third of the way down, that would have been a disaster that everyone would have made fun of for a long time. And you can see how this was something that I'm going to see if I can actually play. Let me see if I can play his announcement. Let me see if I can dig that up here, because I think that would be really good. DeSantis announcement. I don't want to go through the whole back and forth questions that he did, but I would play his announcement, which is like 5 to 10 minutes, as opposed to like the 40 minutes of questions. And I felt that the questions were mostly softball questions. Let me see if I can find that. On YouTube? Listen to DeSantis. Doesn't have to be on YouTube. I don't need to get on YouTube. Oh, this will work. Okay. Let's do it like this. Like I said, it's not a very long announcement. And I think it's good to sort of break down what he says and what people take from it. This is very faint. That's a really bad audio. Let me see if I find better audio. It was very faint. I need a link. I need a link. This one isn't good. This is bad. It's bad. You know what? It's better than nothing. If one of you has a better audio than this, I would invite you to share a link with me, and I'd be really, really flattered if you did. Tell me if you guys can hear this at all. It's only 6.5 minutes, so I don't like. It's not like it's like an hour we're gonna be listening to like this. This is what we got.
For President of the United States to lead our great American comeback. Look, we know our country's going in the wrong direction. We see it with our eyes, and we feel it in our bones.
Can you hear that?
Borders collapse. Drugs are pouring into the country. Our cities are being hollowed out by spiking crime. The federal government's making it harder for the average family to make ends meet and to attain and maintain a middle-class lifestyle. And our president, well, he lacks vigor, flounders in the face of our nation's challenges, and he takes his cues from the woke mob. I don't think it has to be this way. American decline is not inevitable. It is a choice, and we should choose a new direction.
I know it's low sound. I said it's terrible low sound. Let me see if I play it on Twitter directly. Maybe Elon's got like it's terrible. That's not useful. If I check Elon, if I pull up his direct link, he's still got it up there. Oh, this is much better.
Because it looks like doing it from mine basically broke
Much
the
better
system. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining. We're incredibly excited to announce that if you want to have Governor DeSantis on with us with this historic announcement, and then look forward to live Q&A from the audience. So, with that.
Yeah, I mean, so Governor DeSantis, are you there? Can you hear us? I think you broke.
I'm here.
I know. I think you broke the internet there. We had over 500,000 people in Twitter space.
No, you broke Twitter.
It was growing by like 50,000 a minute. So, congrats on breaking the internet there.
Well, yeah. I mean, try some new things. You're gonna.
Yes.
It's adventurous. So
yes.
I will say this: he is getting way more flack than he deserves because it is a new type of thing that they're trying. So it's not shocking that they have glitches, but it still doesn't look good. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're trying something that's never been done before, and announcing your candidacy. Although let's be frank, I mean, RFK Jr. did it also on Spaces. This is not the first time that this happened. This happened a couple of months. This happened like a month ago with RFK Jr.
But I think
but it wasn't nearly as big as Ron DeSantis because no one was thinking about RFK Jr. and a lot of people have been thinking about DeSantis.
But the value here is actually really high for people to hear directly from presidential candidates and to answer a Q&A live, and you can get a sense for how a candidate really is, and where it's not just canned speeches and teleprompters. It's in fact, you can tell by the some of the mistakes that it's real. So anyway, with that, I guess I should turn it over to
Well, let's see. So, yeah, Governor, there's been a lot of speculation over the last couple of months about your plans. I understand that you may have an announcement to make. We've got, I think, a record audience assembled here. Probably the
Not
biggest room that's probably ever been assembled online. What would you like to tell them?
Well, I am running for president of the United States to lead our great American comeback. Look, we know our country's going in the wrong direction. We see it with our eyes and we feel it in our bones. Our southern borders collapse. Drugs are pouring into the country. Our cities are being hollowed out by spiking crime. The federal government's making it harder for the average family to make ends meet and to attain and maintain a middle-class lifestyle. And our president, well, he lacks vigor, flounders in the face of our nation's challenges, and he takes his cues from the woke mob. I don't think it has to be this way. American decline is not inevitable. It is a choice. And we should choose a new direction, a path that will lead to American revitalization. We must restore sanity to our nation. This means embracing fiscal and economic sanity. Stop pricing hardworking Americans out of a good standard of living through inflationary borrow, print, and spending policies. And please embrace American energy independence. This also means replacing the woke mind virus with reality, facts, and enduring principles. Merit must trump identity politics. We must return normalcy to our communities. America's a sovereign country. Our borders must be respected.
Yeah, I'm going to point something out here. Okay? Someone just asked me, yeah, everyone's sitting here going zzz, like whatever. Everyone is sitting here just sort of, and you know what? That is really the point here. This was terrible. If you're a DeSantis fan, you should be very, very upset by this announcement, because here it is. He's trailing in the polls. I don't know. Some people say 20%, 40%, 50%. He's trailing in the primary polls versus Trump by a massive deficit. And he's really, objectively, the most likely one at this point who seems to have any sort of chance of unseating Trump. And we will talk a little bit about Vivek Ramaswamy. And I have him there in the thumbnail because I happen to really like him. I like him as a candidate. In certain ways, I think he has none of the shortcomings that we're going to discuss for both Trump and DeSantis, or certainly fewer of them. But this is so low energy. It just sounds like a speech of a lot of things that most of us all agree with, that we need to close up the southern borders. We need to. If I sat here talking to you, like to my audience like this every day with that monotonous tone, I'm telling you now, I'd be talking to an average of like 40 people at a time, 60 people at a time maximum. You can't be engaging an audience like this. As it is, you're handicapping yourself. And I understand it's cool to embrace new technology. There's no question that Obama in 2008 got a massive push in his candidacy by embracing new technology and basically being the first president to really put considerable effort into campaigning via the internet. It was a massive push and it was brilliant, and it worked out beautifully for him. It really did. No one can deny that. And so I understand the thinking in saying to yourself, you know what? This is something, Twitter Spaces is something that's exploding now, and it's a place of free speech now, supposedly, even though, I don't know, in certain ways, I think my numbers are not really, I think there's something funky with my account, but I'm not going to, this is not about me. My point is that it's cutting edge. It's an area that's growing, and it's cool to be on the cutting edge, but there's certain ways you're handicapping yourself. There's no physical presence. It's just an audio, and it sounds like he's reading a script there. I mean, it sounds like he's reading a speech that some high school kid could give. So it's like, this is not how he's fighting against a guy who is the king of energizing a crowd. I mean, the king of energizing a crowd. And people don't vote with their minds. They vote with their heart. That is what people do. They vote with their heart, either their heart being strongly for someone or they're strongly against someone. So people might go out and vote with their heart against Trump, and other people will go out with their heart and vote for Trump. But that's what people tend, they go with their gut. And if you're sitting here, and yes, the gut is triggered to a degree, or is a little bit swayed based on intellectual perspectives on what the candidate is saying and what your objective is for what they're going to do. But you need to, you're sitting here and you need to come out of the gate making people feel confident that you have any chance of taking down Trump. And this to me was a disaster. This was terrible. This was terrible. And I'm not saying this with any sort of sense of disappointment, because I'm not sitting here as a DeSantis shill. I think that there's a lot of good things about DeSantis, and I think there's a lot of bad things about DeSantis. And I'll tell you something, I see the same thing in Trump. I can't deny it. And as much as I might be critiquing both of them, and I will be critiquing both of them over the next couple of hours, I'm going to tell you this. I am so pleased with these two options. No, I'm going to even say three. I'm throwing Vivek into this conversation. And no, I'm not going to be talking about Nikki Haley. I'm not going to be talking about Tim Scott. And I'm not going to be talking about Mike Pence. Because to me, that's basically the white version, the female version, and the black version of the same uniparty. I can't tell those three apart. They're the same person. You just have, oh, okay, I'm going to vote for the woman. I'm going to vote for the black guy. I'm going to vote for the guy who was vice president. That's all it is. That's all it is. They're all the same. But they're all uniparty. They all sit there supporting the war in Ukraine, spending dedicating over $100 billion to a country that we don't even have a treaty with, and that is known for their corruption, with no oversight as to like what happens to that money. And to me, that is that is a stain that can never wash away. That can never wash away. And I'm going to pause for a moment, and I'm going to hit on this again in the future about this Ukraine thing, because I haven't really hit on it hard enough, okay? But I'm going to tell you this. Because the government is spending so much money all the time, we tend to lose track when we throw out numbers like millions, billions, trillions, where they become synonymous with each other, because these are numbers which are too big for a human mind to really, really fathom. Okay, but $1 billion. I mean, you sit there and I ask you, what would you be willing to do if I gave you $1 million? And the sky's the limit. For most people, sky's the limit. Many of you would be willing to literally cut off body parts to get $1 million. Well, what if it was $1 million plus $1 million? It's $2 million. Plus $1 million, 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 plus $1 million. Put that on loop for the next 6 hours. You get to like $1 billion. Now you keep putting that on another loop for like the next week before you get to $100 billion. It is an astonishing amount of money that no one would ever spend if it was their own money. But because it's not their own money, it's your money, and you don't fight hard enough about it because you forget about it once you cut the check to the government. But because it's not your money, and frankly, it's not even your money. It's really your grandkids' money, because Frank, how the heck we're ever going to pay this off, God only knows. But it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel significant. And we're literally throwing it away to a company that is infamous for being one of the 5 most corrupt companies on the planet, without having any clue where that gobsmack of money actually is doing. Because why would someone need $100 billion? I understand war is crazy expensive. I get it. Where has that money gone? Where is it gone? Just I don't understand. I don't understand any of this. And they just will write another check and another check and another check and another check for more billions and more billions and more billions. Because democracy, whatever that means. So, and yeah, I'm not looking to see anyone be a victim. I'm not looking for anyone in Ukraine to die. I think that the Ukrainians are pawns in this whole conflict here, and that no one cares about them. I don't think Zelensky cares about them. I don't think Putin cares about them. I don't think anyone really cares about them. And I think that they're pawns, and that this entire thing looks like one massive Ponzi scheme as to what's happening with those hundreds of billions of dollars. So whoever's willing to stand up and say, I am not going to sign off on this going forward, to me, that puts you, that is a massive consideration into who I'm going to be supporting to be running for the GOP. Because I'm so outraged over it's literally theft. And it's theft from you and me, and we don't think about it. We don't feel about it. It's theft, and it's not even helping these people. It's almost like sending this money off to Black Lives Matter, where it's like, yeah, I don't want Black people suffering. I don't want them being oppressed. I don't want them being harmed. So what am I going to do? I'm going to cut a big, massive check for $5 million to Black Lives Matter. And what ends up happening with that? It ends up going into buying some Black woman who's the head of Black Lives Matter a mansion. Not helping any of the victims of oppression, not helping anyone. This just ends up helping someone build a mansion. And I feel as if we're building mansions in the Ukraine, or whatever part of the country the money we're sending to the Ukraine actually ends up going. So it's not even going to help these people who are there. And that's why we need someone who actually has the cojones to stand up to Congress and say, no, this is not happening. We're not wasting more people's money. Because it was your money, if it was your money, Mitch McConnell, if it was your money, Nancy Pelosi, you wouldn't be signing off on this check ever. You wouldn't be thinking about it. This is not your money. You're all so quick to just throw it away and not even have any oversight to see what happens to it. It's gross. So yeah, it's a very big issue for me. But I didn't even want to get into, I actually have a lot more to say about the Ukraine issue, but I really want to focus more on it. But that's why I'm not going to be talking about Nikki Haley or Tim Scott or Mike Pence or any of these other yokels who have these pipe dreams that they're ever going to win the primary. And I am going to focus more on Trump and DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy. So, with that being said, I felt that this announcement was low energy. It was very low energy. And if people are too zoned out to listen to the words that you're saying, you could literally be saying the most inspiring words in the world. No one's listening. You have an audience of 500,000 people and they're all in a coma. So what's the point? What's the point? And then he had a Q&A session, and I can fast forward to like parts of his Q&A session. But I mean, listen to this.
We cannot have foreigners pouring into our country illegally by the millions. We cannot allow drug cartels to poison our population with fentanyl.
And by the way, this whole thing about drug cartels, he's saying we're going to make the drug cartels accountable. Really? How are you going to do that, Ron? How are you going to hold them accountable? Where are they? Why are they not? Who has been saying, yay, drug cartels, that we haven't had an interest in holding them accountable? I just don't even understand. Like, to me, that's empty. That's empty platitude. When you say we're going to have the drug cartels held accountable, how exactly are you going to do that? Who is the guy? Who give me the 10 names of the people you're going to go after and have them pay? Like, how are they going to be accountable? Like, what does that even mean? They're not here in Colombia or Mexico or wherever, somewhere in Latin America.
Public deserves safe communities, and law and order must be maintained in American cities.
That's true.
We can't have inmates running the asylum, and we must reject attacks on the men and women of law enforcement. We also must reestablish integrity in our institutions. This includes the military. I'm proud to be a Navy veteran, an Iraq veteran, and I revere our services. But when revered institutions like those in our military are more concerned with matters not central to the mission, whether it's global warming or gender ideology and pronouns, morale declines and recruiting suffers.
See, it's all true what he's saying. I agree with everything he just said there. I just couldn't hear it because I'm sitting there, like he's sitting there reading his tone, and it's the morale declines, and it's like he's reading. It's like he's reading he's reading about like the best way to stitch yarn. Like, okay, that might be true. I'm just like, I'm asleep. I fell asleep 3 minutes ago, and nothing you're saying is waking me up. This is like so low energy.
And you need to eliminate these distractions, and we need to get focused on the core mission. We also cannot have true constitutional government if the most significant issues are decided by the whims of unelected bureaucrats.
This was just lousy. This was lousy in every way possible. It was really lousy. It was terrible. It was terrible. So it started poorly, and it didn't get much better. Now, I'm not saying this to hate on Ron DeSantis, because I'm going to be clear here. I think that what he did as governor is remarkable, really remarkable. And anyone who's sitting here saying that you know for sure that he's a corporate shill, I'll tell you this. You don't know that for sure. You don't know that for sure. But I could definitely understand why you have concerns about him becoming that. And and if you don't have concerns about him becoming that, then you're really blinding yourself. You're really, really blinding yourself about him becoming just another member of the Uniparty, becoming another Mike Pence, another Dan Crenshaw, another Nikki Haley, another Tim Scott, and that's what Ron DeSantis is going to devolve and become. Do we know this for certain? No. But are there implications that that's the direction that he's going? Yes. And that should be very disconcerting. Very disconcerting. When you look at the people that he's surrounded himself with, when you look at the people who are endorsing him, when you look at how I'm sure Fox, which is part of the Uniparty just as much as CNN is, just the other side of the Uniparty, that when you look at how they're all lining up for him and with their despisement of Donald Trump, it's pretty clear that they feel confident that this guy is basically going to be going along with the corporate narrative, which means one way which that will certainly manifest is if he shows any equivocation about supporting Ukraine in this war. And that's one of the things I'm going to be looking for, because I'll tell you this. I'm willing to hear DeSantis out in what he's planning to do as president. But the moment he shows any equivocation about extending further support for the war effort in Ukraine and says, well, we need to look into that and perhaps maybe do that, rather than saying absolutely not, that's when he's done. I'm done with him. I have no interest in it. Because to me, that's a uniparty move. That's completely a uniparty move. That is the role of someone who's basically looking to like go along and get along so that the people who are in power stay in power and nothing positive actually happens, and that the Republican Party will be the Democratic Party will be the party of like, let's move fast, let's move faster, and the Republican Party and the Uniparty is like, no, let's hit the brakes and we'll get where you want to go, not next week, but certainly within the next 2 to 3 years. So like they're useless, utterly useless. I think Kelly nailed it. He's got a personality problem in that he doesn't appear to have one. Yeah, he doesn't. He's it's like peeling paint. That's a great way. Yeah, that's a great way for her to phrase it. He doesn't appear to have one. So I can love everything that he did in Florida, and what I'll tell you is I don't think he has the appeal. I don't think that I have concerns that he's going to become a corporate shill. Grave concerns that he's going to become a corporate shill. And I also question whether he'll have the same effectiveness if and when he were to become president, in that he has had the benefit, huge benefit, of serving as governor in a state that has a super majority of Republicans in, I think, both the houses of the Florida legislature. Which basically means that whatever law he decides he wants to pass, he knows it's going to go into effect. That is very different from sitting there trying to haggle something out with a bunch of leftists, where you can never. It's almost impossible to get a majority to go along with anything that you want to pass. So, in that sense, his ability to be effective in any sort of form that he's been effective in Florida for him to continue that role as president seems somewhat questionable. Somewhat questionable. And I have two more concerns with him. I have two more concerns. If I was on the panel, and because the panel I was on, and that group, the panel I was supposed to be on with Mario Nawfal was supposed to end up having 250,000 people streaming the same thing out, and they were joking about trying to get Ron when they're having all those tech issues, trying to get Ron to switch over to their space and just make his announcement there. And they were seriously doing whatever they could, I'm sure, to get him to switch over when Elon's space wasn't working. And one of the questions I would have asked him is, you promised Florida that you were going to serve a full 4-year term. You promised them that less than a year ago, that you were going to serve a full 4-year term. If you're breaking that promise, why should we not think that you're going to break any promise that you make any promise that you're making in the hopes of winning an election? You made that promise to win the governor election. Why should we not think that any promise you're making to us today is going to similarly broken because you're just making promises to win an election? I mean, to me, that's a serious thing. The whole thing he's trying to sell us on is his integrity. He's trying to sell us on your integrity. We know that on this issue, you lied. You flat out lied to Florida. So tell me why that should not be bothersome. It should be. It should be. Because he's established a pattern now, if not a pattern, and at least an ability to, or a certain level of comfortability with making campaign promises that we have to think that he has no expectation of actually fulfilling. And I just don't think he had to do it now. Now, I understand. I think those people who say, why didn't you wait till 2028? And this way we could have Trump and then go from Trump into DeSantis. A lot of people have asked that question. I don't really think that's a great question. I don't really stand behind the whole thing of like he has to show loyalty to Trump because Trump helped him become governor in 2018. That to me is wrong. That's wrong. I don't agree with that. I don't agree that there's a loyalty he has to show to Trump. Because those of you who are sitting here all excited about Trump and all crazy about Trump, and for good reason. Okay? I actually have a more generous assessment of Trump's work as president than I think most people do. Even people who like Trump, they tend to critique him for COVID, and I think that those critiques are 2020 hindsight. A lot of them are 2020 hindsight. And they forget just how gripped with fear the country was in March of 2020. And the no-win situation that Trump was in, being that was an election year, and he was 8 months from squaring off an election. How he was put in a completely no-win situation. Because he either destroyed the economy, which is what he decided to do, or basically portray himself as someone who the left would be able to have real credibility in attacking him as being a maniac who doesn't care about poisoning America with COVID. And here's the death toll mounting every day. He's going to kill us all. That's what it would have been if he didn't follow and didn't follow science, and that his refusal to accept science has now led to the death of 100,000 Americans. And soon it's going to be you. That's what it would have been. He was in a no-win situation. And standing up to them and saying, I know better, ultimately, he may have prevailed in proving that point, but it would have taken until 2022, 2023 before that point would have been proven out. And in November 2020, that would not yet have been proven out. That would have been the rough period where everyone would have seen just how bad the numbers were, with no proof that he was right in making a call to ignore the likes of a Dr. Fauci or a Dr. Birx. So he was really in a no-win situation there. And that's why I think all the people are critiquing, saying, hey, you know, you were promoting lockdowns and whatever, all this other stuff that he stood up for. I think that's a ridiculously harsh assessment given what we knew in 2020. I think it's unfair. And I think that the work he did as president leading up to COVID, I think, was phenomenal. It really was phenomenal. In so many different respects, foreign affairs, domestic, everything. He was phenomenal. That being said, I have grave concerns about Trump in 2024. What do you got here? His natural instincts be Ukrainian war salute. Hard no to yawn disaster. Okay. Well, I'll tell you this. I'm not sure what a war salute is, but I'll tell you this. As soon as I hear him express any support for America financing the war in Ukraine, I'm going to be I will become a hard no. Right now, I'm sort of not loving it. Not loving it. Not loving it. And I'll explain to you the only reason that I feel to still hold on to the possibility. Because here's the thing. Those of you who are hating on DeSantis, and I understand it's very popular to hate on DeSantis, you cannot deny the fact that his work in Florida has been exceptional. Really exceptional. Exceptional in the sense that I think every one of us wishes our governor was DeSantis. I mean, I don't mean any people on the left, but I'm saying anyone on the right wishes their governor was DeSantis. Someone who's willing to stand up to woke ideology, stand up and say that they're not tolerating this illegal immigration, not cave to whatever novo science comes up and all the climate change, chicken littles who are screaming out there that the world is coming to an end. I think every one of you who considers yourself remotely conservative are lying to yourself if you say that you would want anyone but DeSantis being your governor. I mean, maybe you'd say Trump, whatever, because you love Trump. But I'm saying, as far as any work we've seen from a governor in the last 20 years, I don't know who comes close to DeSantis. So let's not pretend that he hasn't been great as governor. And the company, and fighting school boards, fighting them, passing laws, enabling people saying that we're not going to you don't have to back down to a woke mob, but if they surround your car and you're trying to escape from a woke mob, and that you're not going to be prosecuted for driving through them if they surround your car and start beating on your car. These are important things. It's sad that these are important things. Protecting children from being from being groomed by their primary schools. These are important things. And he's had the cojones to actually stand up and do it. So let's not pretend. So, those of you who loves calling him disaster and all this other stuff, let's not. I understand that you feel like, I think the reason he gets that level of hate is because people feel he's a genuine threat to the candidacy of Donald Trump. If he was not a genuine threat, no one would be attacking him like this. They would be saying, oh my God, what a phenomenal governor. So the reason I think everyone is so hardcore against him is because they anticipated that this day would come when he would announce his candidacy for president, and none of you want to see him run president against Trump. And this was the point I made earlier. Whoops, not that. This is the point I made earlier. He said he's laser focused on Florida. He wasn't. You don't just decide and wake up one day and say, now I'm going to be president. Everyone was talking about it since before your last election. Don't tell me that you just decided that this is what's going to happen. It's not true. It's just not true. So But this I do not agree with. The whole backstabber that he owes Trump something. He doesn't owe Trump anything. He doesn't. Is it possible that he would not have won the election? Yeah, that's definitely possibly true. But no one is picking him to be. No one is supporting him to be president because he won the election in 2018. They're supporting him for president because of the work he did as governor. You know, so it's not because he won in 2018. It's because of the work he's done since 2018. And at a certain point in time, like, it doesn't mean that he has to show fealty, that it's like, look, because we have to recognize something. And I'm going to ask this question to every one of you who's sitting here saying Trump 2024. And I pray that one day one of you is able to give me a great answer. I hope there's a great answer. I really, really hope there's a great answer to the question I'm about to ask you. And that is this. If you're all Trump 2024, you probably agree with a large number of people out there, including Donald himself, who has all sorts of questions about things that happened in 2020. Without being more specific so that my channel doesn't come crashing down on me. He has all these different questions about what happened in 2020. So if you're sitting here and he worried about it happening before it started. He was worried about it months in advance when he's being asked, are you going to accept results? And he said, well, we'll depend. Why are you saying that? Because he had concerns about it. He's the president of the United States in 2020. He has concerns about various things happening that he would not want to accept happening. And then things happen. And he has nothing put in place to stop it. If as president, he was incapable of stopping these things from happening, where a whole bunch of Trump haters were able to express their Trump hatred and manifest their Trump hatred in ways that he did not feel were proper, perhaps illegal. And yet he couldn't stop it when he was the sitting president of the United States. Why the heck would he be better at stopping it in 2024 when he's not the president of the United States? How is he going to be more prepared for it in 2024? Why should I have any confidence that I'm not going to see the exact same result? And yeah, maybe it'll be like the same shenanigans. Why should you or I have any belief for even a second that we're not going to see an exact repeat? Go out there and get his 88 million votes, which I don't think he'll garner that many anymore. What is not the same? What you're saying is not the same. What is not the same? It's not a test. I want a real answer. I want a real answer to this question. Someone tell me why I should feel confident that that's not going to happen. And therefore what? Therefore what? Because I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you this. Trump puts everything on steroids. National interest goes on steroids, both in favor of him and against him. I think whatever number of people are going to go out and vote in 2024 will be increased by anywhere between 10 and 20% just by Trump's name being on the ballot. And that'll be people voting for him and against him. But there is a lot more passion involved when Trump is there. And I can understand an argument, and I'm not saying I agree with this argument. I sort of want to think about this point. But the level of animus that he creates, even if it's not his fault at all, which I can understand some of you would say it's not his fault, it was all like painted that way. You're right. I'm going to agree with you for the moment. It doesn't matter because it's still there. we're talking about actually winning in 2024. I think that what happens is there's a certain sort of, perhaps, in theory, we'll just speculate for a moment, okay? Speculate that there's some sort of orchestrated shenanigans, and then there is generic natural shenanigization. I just made up the word shenanigization, but it's perfect. Okay. What do I mean by that? Okay. The difference between a conspiracy versus manipulation. So in a conspiracy, it's I have an agenda. My agenda is I want to get something done, and let's assume that that something is evil, nefarious, perhaps illegal, whatever it is. I want an outcome to happen. I can actually contact people and try and form an agreement. I'll do this, you'll do that, he'll do the other thing, she'll take care of that, and sort of work together so that we're all on the same page in forming a plan. That is one form of orchestrated shenanigans. But there's another type of shenanigans which don't need to be orchestrated, don't need to be a conspiracy, don't need to have expression. I just know that that's what they're going to do. And if I know that's what they're going to do, I don't even need to tell them to do it. They're just going to do it. So I can tell you right now, with respect to, let's say, harvest time. You guys all know what I mean by harvest time when I'm talking about this topic, okay? Harvesting. You know, you plant your seeds, you grow your crops, and it's time to harvest. It's November, and it's time to harvest, okay? So I don't need to call people up to say, hey, it's harvest time. It's harvest season. No, I don't need to tell them it's harvest season. They know that, hey, the apples are on the tree. It's time for us to harvest. They know that. I don't need to encourage them to harvest. They're already really good at harvesting every 4 years because the apples are ready and the wheat is perfectly primed and it's time to harvest. Do I need to call up Jim Bankman in Detroit or Leslie Siegel in Atlanta or whatever and tell them, hey, it's harvest season? No, they're just going to go harvest. That's what they're going to do because they see the apples on the tree and it's time to harvest. You don't need to actually have conspiracy. You could just rely on people doing what they've been doing because that's what they do. But the harvesters can have different levels of enthusiasm. And this is just one form of asserting your will is through harvest. So harvesters have a certain level of enthusiasm. And whatever level of enthusiasm they have, if DeSantis's name is on the ticket, that enthusiasm goes from here, low-level DeSantis energy enthusiasm, to here when it's Trump's name on the ticket. This is a considerable impact. So all the people who are not part of the orchestration, your natural people who are just doing what they do, are far more energized to do what they do when Trump's name is on the ticket. We know this to be true. We've seen it happen. Which is why, do I think that there's always some sort of shenanigization? Yes. But I think the intensity of that shenanigization goes up exponentially as soon as Donald Trump's name is on the ticket. And to deny that is just fooling yourself. Should it be that way? In my opinion, no. Has it been ginned up against him by fake news media and by all these people who try to twist everything he says into being, some sort of manifestation of a reincarnation of Adolf? Yeah, I think it has been completely ginned up, but it has successfully been ginned up so that the harvesters, as soon as they hear that name, get triggered and they're basically like, oh my God, we got to harvest. Are you kidding me? If we don't harvest, who knows what's going to happen? The world's going to come to an end. That's what happens. Is that going to happen if DeSantis' name is on the ticket? No. Will there be some sort of natural, organic, apple picking if DeSantis' name is on there? Yes. Will it be the same level? Absolutely not. No way in hell. No way in hell. So that being the case, it means it's that much harder for Trump to overcome it. Hey, Steve, how are you, brother? Some of you are saying, I see some of you are saying I'm wrong. Some of you are even harsher. I love it. Yeah, okay. All right. Well, walk me through where I'm wrong here. Walk me through where I'm wrong. Now, does that mean that we should just bite the bullet and say, well, what we're going to do is just go with DeSantis? No, doesn't mean that at all. Doesn't mean that at all. Again, especially if he's supporting that war in Ukraine. Oh my God, no. That would make him no different from Mike Pence. Literally no different. If anything, we're just costing Florida 2 years of having a good governor. So, and that's why I keep coming back to Vivek. Vivek Ramaswamy. I did a whole thing. I watched this guy for 2 hours, and I was like, you know what? This guy has me totally sold. He's smart. He understands the mechanics of where there are flaws, where there are problems. And, does he have any of the experience in politics? No. Did Trump? No. And Trump did pretty well. And I think Vivek is probably much smarter than Trump is. He has charisma. He has charm. What he doesn't have is a name that rolls off the tongue or that anyone ever heard of before. But he's a young, rich, sharp-looking guy who's really smart, really based. And everything we see about him so far, I haven't heard his position on Ukraine. I'd like to see that. But I'll tell you right now, to me, it sucks. I wish he was polling much, much better. But that is why I stuck his face in the thumbnail. Because I know that everyone's going to be focusing on DeSantis or Trump. But there are problems. There are problems with Trump, too. You can't forget about his age. I mean, really, imagine the dude wins the presidency and literally a year later is incapacitated because he's just too old. I mean, he can go Fetterman on us any minute. Any minute. He's really old. What year was he born? He's almost as old as Biden. I know that can happen to anyone, but you can't just deny the age. And also, I'll tell you one more thing is his biggest weakness is figuring out who to circle around himself. I mean, there's a list of names that you can go through the names of people who end up stabbing him in the back, whether it's Michael Cohen or John Bolton or Barr, or you can talk about Bill Barr or Mike Pence or all these different people he's surrounded himself with. He even was pony up with. I mean, frankly, Giuliani I thought was a pretty weak person to be heading up his whole fighting against the issues of 2020. Just like one bad choice after another, and who he's relying on. And the older he is, the more reliant he is on other people. The older he is, the more reliant he is on other people. And the one thing he sucks at is picking other people to rely on. So he'll be that much more reliant because let's face it, in 2027, he'll literally be 11 years older than he was, than when he first was elected president. I want a politician that isn't a politician. Well, that's why you should be looking at Vivek. I'll tell you right now. The guy has the looks of a winner. I don't know how to get him that cachet to start rolling that into something that people take really seriously. Really start taking seriously. But we didn't know anything about Trump going into 2016 other than the fact that he was a famous celebrity who made us laugh, who had charm and charisma. That's all we knew about him. And that he wasn't Hillary. That's basically what we knew about him. He had charm and he had charisma. He wasn't Hillary. And he was like, in the public spotlight for 40 years. That's what we knew about Donald Trump going into 2016. And he certainly didn't even express himself with respect to his policy expectations nearly as well as Vivek does. Nearly as well as Vivek does. Vivek is breaking down all the issues with the FDA and how he's gonna fix that up. It's like, oh my God, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. I just don't know how to get him the attention that he needs. Have you seen any interviews where Vivek said he considered RFK Jr. as VP? That's pretty wild. Yeah, you know what? I got to tell you something. I kind of think that's actually very cool. I think that's very cool. Not that I agree with everything RFK Jr. says. But everything that dude says sounds so ridiculously based. Oh, I agree with you. This was terrible. This was terrible. It was awful. Let me see where my base people in. Did I forget? I think I forgot to do the locals thing. The locals live chat. I feel bad. I did. I'll open my locals chat now. So let's wrap up. Let's do a little synopsis of what we have here. Okay. We're looking at Donald. We'll start with Donald. Okay. So the pros on Donald are the guy has been phenomenal as president. I don't love some of his selections for the Supreme Court or different people in his cabinet or those he surrounded himself with. But his policies were excellent. He has a built-in love and support of people who treat him a little bit like a cult figure, almost to a disturbing degree. If I have to read one more thing from Laura Loomer about testing anyone's loyalty to Trump, I think I'm gonna want to slit my wrist. It makes me feel almost uncomfortable how people idolize Donald Trump. And I think he was phenomenal president. But I never want to put any person above the agenda of making America a better place. And let's face it. Let's face it. My belief in Donald is I think he wants America to be a great place because he wants his legacy to remain intact. Or his legacy, he wants to build a legacy or maintain a legacy for being a great president, being a successful president. And the dude has tremendous charisma. He does. He's funny, he's entertaining, and he has so much baggage that in the minds of many people, he'll be remembered by them for decades as the worst person who ever lived in their lifetime. I think most of those people are crazy or idiots, but that doesn't mean that's not how they feel about him. So, and while I have questions about him on a personal level, I'm not voting for him to be, the next father of my, the surrogate father of my kids, which I would never want to have him in that role. But as president, chef's kiss. Aside from picking people for Supreme Court, but yeah, in general, amazing work with his policies, domestic, and he helped everyone, every different minorities. I mean, what he did for the Black community, he did more for the Black community than Obama did by a light year. I mean, he helped everyone, the economy, everything. People forget how amazing America was when he gave his State of the Union speech in January 2020. Oh my God. But he has his baggage, and I don't know how I can feel confident that he's not going to fall prey to the same apple pickers, and not just apple pickers, but countless other ways of things that are similar to harvesters. Some people get very creative, in various issues of flooding. We'll just call it flooding, where it's like, oh my God, we didn't see this coming. And then there's flooding, and everyone's like, oh yeah, this looks totally like the rest of our apples. So all that stuff, I don't know why does anyone's confident that's not going to happen again in 2024, especially if Trump is on the ticket. And I think that's much less likely to happen if DeSantis is on the ticket, although somewhat. And I think it's much, much less likely to happen if Vivek is on the ticket. Much less likely to happen, not to the same degree. Will there be some shenanigans? Yes. But not nearly the same degree as what we saw, in 2020. Dude, I'm just waiting for him to announce his candidacy. I'm just waiting for it. So, lots of great reasons to love Donald. He's done the job. He has the experience. He's done the job. He's done great work in the job. I'll give him a solid B+, almost practically A- for his work as president. Phenomenal. And I can't think of any other president in my lifetime who I would give a B to. Maybe Reagan. And I've seen a whole bunch of Fs. But, yeah, really, really great work. Great work. The question is, can he win? Given all the things that we know, can he actually win? And I have real questions on that, because he couldn't control things when he was president. So how's he going to control it when he's not? Why do you think that? Why do you think he's not going to fall victim to the same thing he fell victim to in 2020? And I'm not interested in spending the period of 2025 through 2028 screaming, he really won. That's not what I'm interested in doing. I'm not interested in that. What does that even mean? I don't even know what this means. Yeah, the people rose up when we saw January 6th hearings. Like, what does that mean? In what context? Anyway, the more I see about this, the more I actually, and that's why I have problems with this. We've gone through all the problems I've had with DeSantis, and I do think that his work as governor is literally better than anyone we've seen this century. This century, the dude has been amazing. Like, what more could you have asked for him to do with respect to Florida? He's been great. He's been really great, and I don't want to hear. That's why I get bothered by people, labeling him disaster. And I hate how. And another thing I don't like about Trump going into 2024 is I love when the guy talks policy. I hate when he starts talking about people. This person, that person, this person, that person. When he was running in 2016, he needed to do that because no one knew him. So he had to sort of attack Ted Cruz and Jeb Bush and, sleepy Jeb and lying Ted Cruz and all this other stuff that he had to do because he didn't have a track record that he could rely on. He didn't establish himself, and it's like, so he sort of needs to find some sort of niche way of setting himself apart from everyone. Okay. But now it's like, I don't need to hear him going through the whole disaster thing or whatever. It's like, just say, look, good luck running. You can't run a country with the expectation you're going to have a supermajority that's going to be supporting your policies. And yeah, here are all the reasons everyone should recognize you're a corporate shill. You're just going to become another Mitch McConnell. That's a way to attack this DeSantis, not by, making jokes about his height or his name or whatever, this desanctimonious or this other stuff. It's like, to me, it's like, I don't want to see, I think Trump hurts himself when he starts trying to do that whole childish form of attacking. He doesn't need to rely on that anymore. This is a different election. I will say, I'm really pleased. I mean, think about this. I mean, the idea of choosing between these candidates versus what we were looking at in 2012, where Romney is the best. I mean, think about that. 2008, where we're like McCain on the ticket, for crying out loud, McCain. Or George W. Bush. I mean, this is what we've been dealing with this century until Trump came along. This is like the best field of politicians that we've ever seen. So as much as I'm hating on and picking, it is a little bit of nitpicking. Because I think that we actually have better candidates today than we really have had to choose from in a long while. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's a very good thing. All right, that's fair knock. It's fair knock. He also took a devastated economy and fixed it up. Not that that's the role of the president, which is why I don't really make a big deal about that. And the second he took office, you had a 444 hostage situation that just went away because they were so terrified of him. I do think, by the way, with respect to the war in Ukraine, I think that it'll end in 10 minutes if Trump gets elected. I think in 10 minutes. I think Putin pulls right out. I think he pulls right out. Or they work some sort of a accommodation where the country gets, some sort of treaty between them. I do think that he would resolve that situation better than anyone. And that's a very, very big plus. It's a very big plus. I like the idea of a poll. I like that idea a lot. We're going to do that right now. Poll time. Start a poll. Very simple poll. GOP primary choice. Trump, DeSantis, Vivek, or none of the above. Vivek. Should we listen to any more of this DeSantis thing? Some of those questions, I was just like, just stop it. This is all just like... Let me see what the early results are. I want to start getting Vivek up there. I want to find a way for this guy to actually find his groove and start pulling. I would love to. In fact, I'm going to cast my vote for Vivek. Oh, they don't let me vote. Well, that stinks. 7% of you right now are none of the above. Why don't you trust Vivek? Why not? I do need those glasses. They're supposed to be coming next week. I have one that's sitting at my optometrist's office. I don't think he'll pick him. I think he'll pick someone who he feels like are going to get him votes, and I don't think he feels like Vivek's going to get him votes. Larry Elder. That's an interesting choice. I should look at Larry Elder. You want me to add Tim Scott? You want me to add Tim Scott? You want me to add Tim Scott? Tim Scott can rot. This is a guy who wants to start World War III. So no. No. Degrading the Russian military is in America's best interest. This is what you're so fixated on. A hot war with Russia. No. No. This is disaster. Yes, I am on early. I will not be on later tonight. There's a Jewish holiday which starts at sunset local time, which I have like I can go like another half hour here or so. Nance says, with Trump, I felt safe living in America. He was respected by other world leaders. He did so much to help minorities. No, he wasn't perfect. But Biden, yeah, 100%. 100%. Everyone said like how the world leaders used to laugh at him. You know what? Maybe they did. They were also terrified of him. They were really terrified of him. And I don't really care about them like sitting there like, oh, he's I don't need him being treated like Zelensky. I'd much rather him actually be effective at what he's doing. So yeah, and I agree with this. Yeah, I think he's terrible. I think Tim Scott is awful. So yeah, no, I'm not. I can't support Tim Scott. I never will support him. See, this I can agree with Rand Paul. He's great. Rand Paul is awesome. This is what you need to start learning. You need to start learning who Vivek is. Vivek Ramaswamy. I like Viv. I think he'll be a great Secretary of State for Trump. The reason why the DeSantis hate is that he and Trump had an agreement to run POTUS VP after 2022, and Ron got cucked by Jeb with Rove, Mittens, and Ryan. So this is one of the things I wanted to talk about. I do think this was a terrible mistake on DeSantis' part. I don't think he's going to win the primary. I think he's going to get a lot of support from Fox. He's going to get a lot of support from the corporate chills. And I don't think that he's going to win. I don't see him winning this thing. And I think that all he's doing is building a lot of anger against him. So I think it was a poor choice on his part. I think it was a very poor choice on his part. And he also made himself a liar. To me, that's a much bigger deal. That you're willing to lie to your voters in order to get their vote is a very, very. Once you reveal that, do we suspect everyone of that? Yes, we always suspect that we're just going to be lied to. But the guy promised Floridians that he's laser focused on Florida. He's going to be there for 4 years, and less than a year later, he announces his candidacy for president. That's not cool. No, I didn't see Trump winning in 2016, but I was explaining how over the ensuing 4 years, the left did a successful job of terrifying their constituents and anyone who was not diehard MAGA that he would destroy the world if he won in 2020. So whatever it is that led to the results that went into effect in 2020, why should we not see the exact same thing happening in 2024? You need to explain to me why it is that the exact same thing will not happen. And I think this is definitely possible. I think this is a pretty insightful comment. I think he's been fluffed by a bad circle of people who basically are a bunch of rhinos who felt like we hate Trump. This is what I think. I think this is exactly what happened. I think there are a bunch of rhinos who say we hate Trump. We don't want Trump to win. And the best opportunity to knock Trump off is DeSantis. I think that's what we've seen. And they basically kept pushing him into believing that he can win so that he decided to announce his candidacy. And that's a good point, too. The fact that he's not smart enough to see that is pretty sad. And it could be people like Ben Shapiro. It could be. I think they all convinced him, hey, this is your time. You don't need to wait till 2028. Go do it now. And it's like, I would say this. I mean, if you're Ron DeSantis, let's just pause for a minute and think this through, okay? If you're Ron DeSantis, you do recognize that if he spends 2 years out of office, like let's say he wins a run now and he would have waited till 2028. The truth is, I think within like a couple of months of ending his term, he could have announced his candidacy for 2028 and not been out of the national spotlight for that long. Because, you know, Trump's been out of the spotlight for a while, and a lot of his luster has faded over the last 2 years, despite the fact that a lot of people who love him can't see it. But to most of the world, he's not someone that people think about on a regular basis today. Unless the news media reminds them that, hey, here's the reasons you should hate Trump. But in general, people are not thinking about Trump because he's not president and he doesn't have any sort of official role. So unless you're big into politics, but your average person working his 9 to 5 is not sitting there thinking about Donald Trump. And they sort of forget just how great he was, especially because he left with a bad taste in everyone's mouth, because when he left, you know, we were still under the whole fight of fighting against COVID. So people forget that, you know, it's been 4 years since we saw the amazing work that he was doing back in 2019. It's a long time. It's a long time. And I think a lot of people convinced. So now if you're Ron DeSantis, you're like, well, okay, so now when my term ends in 2026, then what? And I'm going to be out of the national attention for 2 years, and people are going to forget about what great work I did here in Florida. And I think that what he missed the fact was that, like, no, within 3 months after your term ends, you announce your candidacy and start running for like a year and a half. And you're never out of the national attention really for very long at all. That would have made a lot more sense. But now if he loses the primary here and now, I think people might have convinced him you can lose the primary and things will be just as great for you in 2028. If assuming Trump wins, it'll be just as great for you in 2028. I don't know why he would think that. That's just not true. It's a bad taste. People start to forget the great work you did as governor and just start thinking of you as being a loser who lost the primary in 2024. Let me see what we got here. How's my poll going? Yep. This is really, really reflective of the national average. Trump 69%, 250 votes. Trump 69%, DeSantis 13, Vivek 12. None of the above 6. There you go. Indeed. Hail the Rumble Ghetto. It would be really funny to see people write in Donald Trump. Not a Russian bot saying more law, less politics, please. Dude, did you see the title of this show? Of this episode? Did you see the title of this episode? Come on. I think it is going to be a tight tough race. That would be really funny. That'd be really, really funny. He really could. He really could. He could seriously start his own party. I don't see him losing. I don't see him losing. I really like Vivek a lot. The more people are saying, who's Vivek? All right. Vivek is the one who got Don Lemon fired. Let's see if there's. Let's see if I get a little clip of him. I watched a whole like hour-long thing. I was just like blown away. Here's a commercial for him. Is this a commercial? No, this is not it. Is this? This is not a good thing. Here's him with Tucker. We'll watch this. I don't know how.
Entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy has spent a great deal of time thinking about through 2 books, as well as in his latest venture, which he joins us tonight to tell us about. Vivek, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Tucker.
So it does seem like Don Lemon, just a cable host, but this is a perfect illustration of where identity politics wind up when you stray from universal principles that bind us all under the same rules.
Exactly. I mean, we are in the middle of this national identity crisis, Tucker, where we have celebrated our diversity and our differences for so long that we forgot all of the ways we're really just the same as Americans, bound by a common set of ideals that set this nation into motion 250 years ago. And that's why I'm proud to say tonight that I am running for United States president to revive those ideals in this country, those basic rules of the road. Meritocracy, the idea that you get ahead in this country, not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character.
Even this has so much more energy than what DeSantis did.
The idea that you are allowed to speak freely, yes, to be wrong sometimes, as long as your neighbor gets the same courtesy in return. The idea that the people who we elect to run the government, by the way, are the people who actually run the government. Basic rules of the road. These are the things that bind us together. You and I have different shades of melon, and you know what I say? So what? That's not beautiful. That is not our strength. Our diversity is meaningless if there's nothing greater that binds us together across that diversity. And the reason that I'm running for president is to revive those ideals. And I believe deep in my bones, they still exist, that most Americans still believe in them, but we need to rediscover that. And the only way we can do it is by start talking openly again.
So I'm not going to ask you any political questions because given my calls in the midterms, I don't understand American politics. So I'm not going to ask you what you do in Iowa or whatever. Other people can do that. Give us the bullet points of what you're going to tell audiences as you embark from here on this campaign.
I think we need to put merit back into America in every sphere of our lives. I mean, merit in who gets into this country. Let's start with that, okay? I think more people like my parents can be a good thing for this country. But people whose first act of entering this country as a law-breaking one, we should say a hard no to that. Not just who gets in, but also who gets ahead.
Look at this. Look at this. Who could not agree with this?
Decimating affirmative action. It has been a national cancer. One of my top priorities will be to end affirmative action in every sphere of American life. And it's not just meritocracy and who gets ahead.
Ending affirmative action.
Yes.
I mean, our whole government is based on that idea.
Well, the funny thing, Tucker, is this would be an easy thing for president to do. Lyndon Johnson issued an executive order that requires anyone who does business with the U.S. government, that covers over 20% of the U.S. workforce, to adopt race-based quota systems. Any Republican president since Lyndon Johnson could have taken a pen and crossed that out. We haven't done it yet. I think that's the kind of courage we're going to need to muster. Yes. To go after these sacred cows, from woke religion in the form of affirmative action to this new climate religion, which is completely shackling the American economy and culture. We need to take the most sacred cows of these alternative secular religions, and I'm sorry to say this, take them to the slaughterhouse.
I'm going to tell you another reason why one of the things I like about him more than Trump. I'm being real with you. And again, I'm someone who says I rank Trump's work as president higher than probably you do. When he expresses himself, he doesn't make it about himself. When Trump is talking about, he'll talk about how he gets canceled, and it's like they punish me as a way of punishing you. But it's always about, he always makes it about himself. And it's something that it's like, I wish it was just really about the value.
House, because that's what it's going to take for this national revival where we stop apologizing for what it means to be American. I'm all for putting America first, but in order to put America first, we have to first rediscover what America is. And to me, those are these basic rules of the road that set this nation into motion, from meritocracy to free speech to self-governance over aristocracy. People who we elect, actually make them run the government rather than this cancerous federal bureaucracy. That's going to be the heart of.
You see, a bunch of you are saying this, and I don't understand how you know this. Like, on what are you basing this? Like, what do you want? If not, what do you? I think if Trump wasn't running, you would be very excited by hearing this. You just don't like anyone who's a threat to Trump. I understand. Look, I just did a poll. 70% of you put Trump ahead of this guy, and I get it. I know that I'm in the minority in saying that, you know what? At least we should give this guy, a listen. At a certain point, it's like it can't be. It shouldn't be about the individual. What the hell are you all going to do when and assuming he wins? What are you going to do in 2028? What happens then?
My message, and I'll tell you this: we don't have an option anymore. Okay, we face these external threats like the rise of China, which I think has got to be our top foreign policy threat that we've got to respond to, not pointless wars somewhere else. That's going to require some sacrifice. It's going to require a declaration of independence from China.
Yeah, this is Vivek in the poll.
And that's not going to be easy. It's going to require some inconvenience. Buying cheap stuff for that many years, you know what? We got addicted to it. That's going to require some sacrifice. But I think we can make those sacrifices if we know what we are sacrificing for. And that's what I want to see the GOP do. Answer the question of what it means to be an American today. If we give an answer to that question, we dilute this woke agenda and these secular religions to irrelevance. Yes, I've been complaining about them for the last 3 years. Yes, there's a role for identifying the problem. But if we want to deliver a solution, we're going to need to rediscover that national identity that we all share. And if we do that, I still think, honest, deep in my bones, that our best days, not in some.
You're saying he talks a good talk, but can he deliver? And what I'll tell you is, I already watched on air here. It's an episode where I was watching. He spent an hour talking with Michael Malice, and he was literally breaking down like because he came up, he made his fortune at least in part by developing a pharmaceutical company, and he was talking about how there's so much corruption in the FDA and how it's so easy to root it out if you're interested in it. And he started walking through, how the different people who are involved in approving drugs and fast tracking approval and these different issues, how it is that how they consistently look the other way and look that after they leave the FDA, they're going to work for these companies, and the incestuous relationship between pharmaceutical companies and the FDA, and why it is that it's all about money and it's not about protecting the health of Americans, and he was walking through step by step how he would change things to stop that from continuing. This is he understands. This guy is a really smart guy. He understands how things work and where the flaws are, and he seems very interested in actually remedying it. Is it lip service? Possibly. I don't know. What the heck do I know? I'm just saying, like, he definitely sounds more capable of getting these things done than just about anyone I've ever heard.
Cheesy politician kind of way, but actually, truly, I think our best days can be ahead of us, but it's going to take that revival to make it happen.
I hope you'll come back often, because you are one of the great talkers we've ever had. But very quickly, you identified China as the primary concern of American foreign policy. You don't think it's the war in Eastern Europe?
Absolutely correct. And I think that, look, foreign policy is all about prioritization. Okay, we got to wake up to the fact that China is violating our sovereignty. And the reason, if that had been a Russian spy balloon, we'd have shot it down instantly and ratcheted up sanctions. Why didn't we do that for China? The answer is simple. We depend on them for our modern way of life.
Totally
okay,
right.
This economic codependent relationship has to end. And the only other priority I'd add is actually, if you're going to use the military for something, use it to decimate the cartels south of the border in a failed narco state that's now actually killing people on American soil with fentanyl. That's what a good use of a military looks like, is actually protecting American soil and American interests, not a pointless war somewhere else. And I think that the heart of this goes to reviving that national identity. What does it mean to be American? Then you know what you need to defend. And that's where our domestic policy vision and this cultural vision is inextricably linked. It's tied to our foreign policy vision too. And that's why I'm running for president, because I think that needs to be at the top of the GOP's agenda. I think it needs to be at the top of this country's agenda. And I'm running for president to make it happen.
That is so far from the current agenda that it'll be fascinating to see you wade into this race. And we appreciate your announcement.
Everything that he says. And by the way, that what he talks about as far as understanding what America is about, this is something that I think a lot of people lose sight of. I think a lot of people lose sight of. If you're going to be an effective leader, you need to have an agenda which starts with like a mission statement. Okay? And here's an example as to like how there's a lack of a mission statement and how America has basically been like sort of floating, like literally like a piece of driftwood in the ocean. You have no idea which direction we're going to go in next. Zero clue. There's no direction here. And it's so flawed. Let me give you an example with coming back to the Ukrainian war, which I don't remember if it was, I saw him talking about this in the interview with Michael Malice, or was a different interview that I saw, but it was really making a phenomenal point, which is, what is the agenda in the Ukrainian war? Because sometimes when you hear politicians talk, they talk about how it's about stopping Putin. Others talk about it as if it's a rescue mission to protect Ukrainian civilians. Others say it's about democracy. And those are three different democracy for Ukraine. Those are three different agendas. And I can understand people, not that I would necessarily agree with them, but I can understand with all three of these, but I can understand some people saying it's a matter of punching Putin in the nose. It's a matter, I can see people saying it's a matter of building democracies. I can see others saying that it's a rescue mission for these poor people who are helpless pawns, and we're trying to help them save their lives. But your mission statement is governing how you're spending your money. If your objective is to try and save Ukrainian lives, well, in that case, now you're going to be trying to like put up like shields and things like that to help protect those people, or perhaps evacuate them. You start making a plan and about investing your money towards protecting those individuals, as opposed to if it's about democracy. Well, in that case, now you need to start looking about how do we get like groups on the ground there to help like promote that sort of thing, as opposed to removing Putin. Which, what does that even mean? Does that mean invading Russia? Does that mean that you're going to go into Moscow? Does that mean we're going to send down a SEAL team to like basically bust in, or 3 SEAL teams to like bust into the Kremlin and actually execute like Putin? What is the agenda here? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. And that's what I mean when I say we're like driftwood. We have no idea what our direction is. We have no idea what we're trying to do. We're just throwing money, and we have no idea. That's why you need to have a mission statement. You need to have a direction as to what you're doing. And no politicians, you all might call this lip service, and it could be. I don't know that he's not a brilliant con artist. He really could be a brilliant con artist. There are such people, and I don't put my own abilities to read through a successful con artist that above reproach and say, no, I couldn't be fooled. So is it possible he's successfully fooling me? 100%. But I will tell you that his direction of trying to sell this is something that is relatively unique, in that he does present a mission statement. It's not a matter of just stopping the woke or stopping climate change or stopping this or stopping it's a matter of like, what is America about, and defining that, and based on that definition, acting in accordance with that. To me, that is a healthy way to run a country. It is a unifying way to run a country. It's something that is a message that Americans can get behind. And to me, that's a very, very powerful thing, and it's a positive thing. It makes us a people rather than a bunch of folks who live on the same geographic region. If we have a common mission statement, certain ideals, what binds us is our Constitution, but it almost would be like a new Constitution. I don't mean as far as changing our laws, although some of our laws, which were brilliantly put into place by our founders, have been long since forgotten, such as federalism and the importance of power of local governance, which is another thing that he's expressed some strong support for. which is another reason to say, oh my God, I love this guy. And you've never heard Trump say that. As great a job as he did as president, you never once heard him advocate for the beauty of the strength of strong local governance. So can he do what he's saying? I don't know. He certainly seems to understand how it needs to get done. Is he a con artist? Definitely possible. Have I seen any signs that he's a con artist? No, I haven't. But I don't say that. I think any person can be fooled some of the time, including myself. So do I think he's a con artist? Not at all. Does that mean I'm not being conned? No. But I do. If he is conning me, I'll tell you this: direction he's choosing here is far more effective than anything Trump ever says about how they're canceling me because they're making things about himself. And it's far more powerful to me than a guy who's successful down in Florida because he has a supermajority and he basically says, hey, you know what? This is a void that needs to be filled, and hasn't said anything about the war in Ukraine at all. And doesn't give me any idea as to how on earth he possibly would pass any of these agendas as president the way he could when he was down in Florida. And the fact that I think that he's been triggered by a bunch of rhinos into thinking that this is his best opportunity to move forward at this stage in his career, that you should basically expose that you were lying to your own constituents when you promised them a year ago that you're planning on spending the next 4 years running Florida. So DeSantis, by his very announcement, has made himself someone that I have trouble trusting. And the fact that he's supported by people I detest makes me dislike him all the more. And as much as I love President Trump's work as president, I have questions about like some of his messaging. I have questions about his health. I have questions about his ability to overcome in 2024 what he could not overcome in 2020. In an arena that I know is going to be basically so heavily tilted against him, so ridiculously heavily tilted against him, and that he wasn't able to basically get past in 2020. And I can't even understand how he's going to do it in 2024. Will it be tilted against any GOP candidate? Yes, definitely, but not the same degree. Not the same degree. Because the organic shenanigans are not going to be nearly as intense if it's anyone but Trump on that ticket. So if someone's able to give a healthy message to America, a nice, strong, populist message, give us a direction, and actually can articulate ways to remedy problems, I don't know. Seems to have charm, seems to have charisma, can express himself fairly well. To me, his biggest shortcoming is his name. Two ways. First, it's like as un-American a name as, I mean, it's a very ethnic name, but we saw that didn't really affect Barack Obama very much. I'm just saying as far as marketability. But far worse than that is that no one's heard of him. Nobody. I really hope that changes. I really hope that changes. I think the dude could be. He has potential. Will he be great? I don't know. I think he has potential to be great. There's not that many politicians out there that I could have said that about. They'll go after the next guy as hard as they went after Trump. That's definitely true. I think whoever it is, they're going to claim worse than Trump. There's nothing special about Trump that galvanized the left they can't recreate. You're 100% correct in what you're saying here, Jay. 100%. And whoever it is that's not Trump, they will label worse than Trump. But labeling someone worse than Trump is not the same thing as after Trump has already won. Just because that's what they'll label him doesn't mean that they'll successfully market that label. You know, if you're sitting there on the left, you know, eventually you get tired of hearing how everyone is worse. Will they try to label him that way? Yes, definitely. Anyway. Pam, love the presentation and the analysis. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. As a Floridian, Ron running has done nothing but tick me off. I can understand that. He broke his promise to you. So you should be ticked off. All right, I need to start wrapping up here because I gotta get ready for my my holiday. It's going to be starting like in an hour or so. So I will not be streaming tonight. Just a heads up. I'm not going to be streaming tonight. But I do expect to be back here, God willing, on Saturday nights. So until then, anything else? Did I miss anything? Make sure I didn't miss anything here. Live chat. You can do my usual slot, Aussie. I'm not going to be streaming. I'm done. Senior Spielbergo. Good luck. Bidding him good luck and having me read anything in locals. I read my locals. Takes me a while to get there. All right. I think that's our show. So, God willing, I will see you all Saturday night. Until then, take care of yourselves. Hope you have a phenomenal weekend. And, as always, Godspeed.